Now, that same fear of a runaway government will cause people to want to buy more real estate pretty soon. Because frankly, I mentioned if people think they need to buy gold. Well, the people that bought gold in 1981, when inflation was worse than this by a long shot, they got burned because they were in at about $1,000 an ounce, and then a couple years later it's $300 and stayed there for 15 years. That's why I say don't buy gold. I mean, you can if you want, but like I said, it's a high-risk commodity. But buying real estate, there's risk with real estate. Real estate goes up and down in value, just like everything else. But there's a lot less volatility in owning a piece of land in Houston, Texas, or an apartment building here in Houston, Texas, than there is in buying gold. I can guarantee you that. Our long-term advantage is spectacular. We're supposed to have like 13 million more people come into this state over the next 20 years or so, and that's going to create enormous demand for every kind of property type. So the long term, if you've got friends that are buying gold and going in long on gold, help them figure out that real estate is a better alternative. Now with that said, I'm going to say this too, that it's highly possible that commercial real estate in this town, like every other town in this country, could drop in value. We're going to let the experts up here, they can bounce off of me here. If they say something different from me, go with them, because they're the local experts. But I'll just tell you that, people are saying, well, hey, we've got a bid-ask problem here. We had a market clearing at this kind of price level in 2007, underwritten by mortgages that were worse than subprime underwriting. And so the prices were here, and then all of a sudden the bidders just disappeared, partly because of all these government concerns. And now you've got a deal where the market doesn't clear at all, no transactions. So you got bidders somewhere down here, you got ask price up here. The market will clear, and it's going to start clearing this year because a bunch of bad mortgages that were underwritten on commercial real estate will not roll over this year, and they will come into the market and be sold at distressed prices, which will lower those prices down to a level where we'll start to clear. So the good news is, if you're a transactions person, either selling property or leasing space, we're going to start seeing activity, I bet you, by the end of the year. And that's the reason, because sellers are going to find out that the market is not here anymore. Those prices will drop. I don't know where it's going to be, but here's the metric. I would let you do the homework. I would think that cap rates are going to go back to somewhere like they were in 2002. Because in 2002, we were at the exact same position we are today. We had 9/11, nobody's traveling. The president didn't tell us not to travel, that's different. But we didn't want to travel because we thought our plane would get blown up, okay? Virtually the same thing. We had a recession. We were in the early stages of a jobless recovery. There was no hope for employment. And yet people were buying buildings in 2002. And they were buying buildings in 2003, and just go back and look at what cap rates were in 2002 and 2003, and in my opinion, that's where your buyers are. And in my opinion, that's a haircut of somewhere between 10% and 30% in value. And that's what's gonna, I gave a speech to the South Florida NAIOP chapter a month ago. They're a year ahead of Texas because they've been underwater for a long time there. Industrial rents have dropped 30%. I talked to building owners and developers that said we've gotten permission from our owners and partners to cut rent by 30% because they want to keep the tenants. They still don't have the transaction volume. They're coming up to me after the speech and going, I know, I got money, I want to buy. I bought a bunch at 30 bucks a square foot. I just sold it to somebody for 80 bucks a square foot 2 years ago, and I'm going to buy it back for 60, and I can't believe he hadn't rolled over already. How's he doing it? This guy, he was mad because his guy he sold it to hadn't turned over yet. So you've got this enormous pent-up demand for investment money at a normal price. See, those prices, when I say prices can fall like that, that is from a fairyland that they never should have got there in the first place. It's not that real estate is a bad investment, it just got mispriced. And it got mispriced because the cost of borrowing was ridiculous. Fairyland. And now we're going to pay for that. And so, did people think that prices were ridiculous in 2003? Were people going, oh my gosh, cap rates are so high. Cost of capital is so high. It just doesn't make any sense. This isn't fair to the real estate industry. No, they weren't at all. People were happy to take deals. 9% caps, 10% caps. And so that's what we're going back to. And it's going to happen, it's just when. And so, frankly, in my mind, the quicker the sellers start to recognize reality is the quicker that deals will start to move again, and the value of commercial paper will start to flatten out. I'm talking about commercial mortgage-backed securities. Right now, it's just this. Because when there are no buyers, when there are buyers, but when there are no transactions, nobody knows, we know the value isn't here anymore. We don't know even that the value is down here, but at this point we don't know if there's any value. So the best thing that would happen would be is for some property to start coming on the market all over the country, take that haircut, whatever it is, and then you'll see positive news because the first buyers may get in too high. That's a risk. You buy in and get a nice discount, find out you can buy them cheaper a year later, but at some point you hit a bottom number and then it bounces and starts going up, and then everybody wants to start piling in at that point. That's what's waiting for us here in commercial real estate, is that you've got pent-up demand for leasing space from people that have been sitting on their hands because they're scared of their future, and they've been postponing leasing decisions now for 14 months. And ultimately they're going to have to make a move and do something, and as soon as we get some of this fear out of the system, the government's got to come out. I mean, tomorrow, the best thing that would happen would be as if the president, not the president, the people in Congress, if the people in Congress would come out and say, look, I know this is what you're afraid of, and I know I have total control over your future. And I'm going to say right now, I'm not going to take everything you've owned. The stock market would skyrocket after that, and we're going to fail these big banks that are insolvent. It's clear, these banks, 9 banks that got that TARP money, I thought maybe 7 of them were good, maybe 2 were bad, and they're camouflaging the 2 that are bad by bringing 9 of them in so you can't tell who they are. That was another misrepresentation to the public. That's why they did it. They brought 7 of them in, set them in alphabetical order so you and me couldn't tell who was bad and who wasn't. And none of those banks are on Sheila Bair's FDIC troubled bank list. I mean, it's a joke. Not on the troubled bank list, but you're in default, been insolvent for a year and a half. That's why people aren't investing, and they're smart. They're way too smart. They know they're being misrepresented and lied to. Lied to is too strong a word. Whatever it is, when somebody tells you something they know is not factual. Just like General Electric. I lost a little money at General Electric, fun too, and their cost of capital is like 12% right now, and they're still rated AAA. AAA credit rating, but they had to take TARP money because they couldn't roll their commercial paper. Who believes that? See, there's the long run for real estate research, is the people that are going to invest money in the future aren't going to rely on Moody's, Fitch, and whoever else they are, because they know they don't know what they're doing. They're going to have in-house due diligence again. And that's what's going to open the market up again, when you get people in your office that know what they're doing, they've seen the buildings, they've seen the community, they know what they're doing, and they tell you this is a good buy, and then you'll buy it. And you don't care what Moody's rates something, because it doesn't matter. Okay. Gosh.